can you share what your profile looked like from like the quantitative perspective, what your test scores were, your GPA, your work experience?
Sure. So I think I was 730 on the GMAT, which is the average score of the class. But if you look at the average GMAT score of the Indians, because typically the Indian
Oh, yeah.
GMAT score is probably going to be an average of 760, 770. So I was definitely on the lower side of the GMAT score. I'll be upfront about that. Second, in terms of my overall, application, I was an engineer from a college which they only accepted one of. Then I think my scores in my 12th, 10th, and even during college were pretty good. So I was among the top 10 percentile within my undergrad also. So that definitely would have probably helped. In terms of my work experience, also I was among the younger people in the class because the average, I think the pre MBA, and we can check online because I don't have the number very accurately on my head, but I was definitely among the younger people within the class because my average experience was also lower than the average work experience of the class. So yeah, honestly, I don't know why they selected me, but I'm sure they saw something in the profile where the unique mix of maybe engineer who went into banking and then entrepreneurship. I mean, that's something that I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah, that leads me to the next question. What aspects of your, profile do you think actually stood out from your perspective? What do you think made them accept you? Did you highlight any particular X factors, for example? Or maybe the essay, what matters to you and why?
Sure. So there are two aspects, right? Stanford will obviously ask you for your academic achievements and your hobbies, etc. And I felt I have just consistently done multiple things. I might not have been the top student always, but I just consistently worked hard on myself throughout the life. I'd been a half marathon runner, I'd done scuba diving, I'd led the dance society within my campus. So I feel like a bunch of things that I'd done in the past because this is who I am. It gave like a well-rounded application rather than someone who's only aced their exams, etc. So again, that's and again, I want to be very clear that I feel the admissions team's decision criteria is a little bit of black box because I've had friends who've had a 550 from India, 550 GMAT from India. Can you imagine them getting through at Stanford? But something about their story just stood out. So I would not want people to put themselves in a cookie cutter, and that's exactly why probably I even dreamt of applying, because had I used that cookie cutter approach, I would not have even thought that I'm good enough to apply. But coming back to your question, I think for me, two, three things that I did. One, I made sure that I spent almost a day researching the specific colleges that I was applying to so that I really understand what mattered to the college, what was the tone that they are speaking. It's like, if you're proposing someone, you have to have all the details about that other person. Like, you have to say, I love you with a lot of conviction, because otherwise it's a date that's going to get blown off for sure. So it's just that, right? Like, being very personalized in the essay in terms of why Stanford or why Columbia or why Harvard, etc. Like, I can't. So someone gave this advice to me that if you replace Mehak's name with, say, Krish's name, the entire essay should break down. That's how personalized it
Hmm.
should be to Mehak. And similarly, if you replace the name of Howard with Stanford or vice versa, then again the entire essay should break down, because that's how personalized it should be to the campus also.
Yeah.
So that advice, I think, really helped me, spend a lot of time really asking, why do I want to go to this specific campus, not just for the essay. Another trend, at least, that I saw for Stanford as a campus is that, so there's an interesting thing that happens at Stanford, which is called talk. Okay. And it's a
Yeah.
ritual where every, I think, Tuesday or one of the days of the week, one or two classmates, they share their incredibly intimate stories of, maybe some kind of hardship that they went through, etc. And what I saw consistently in a student at Stanford without fail was that everybody had some kind of extraordinary experience in their personal or professional life. Some experiences could be that they were fighting gender biases. Some could be that they had like just showing your ability that you went through that cycle and were able to come out stronger was something that I saw as a consistent theme in the classmates around me. Because if I was wearing the admissions team lens or hat, I'd probably think that okay, maybe this person is not insanely successful, but one thing that specific incident would have caused in this person is excessive grit and persistence. So I personally saw that, and I had a very personal story which I wouldn't be able to share here.
Yeah, of
But I
course.
had a personal story outside of my professional experiences. There's an essay where it says that, is there anything else that you want us to know? So there was a part of my personal story that I did not fear to tell them that, this is the adversity that I went through and this is how I overcame it, even though it has nothing to do with my academics or professional achievement. But this is something that has really shaped me as a person. And to me, I feel not fearing sharing things that have really shaped you. I mean, that to me felt like that might have made me stand out.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting because I did something similar as well on my essay, and I
Mm-hmm.
wrote about something personal and how that tied into how I viewed the world differently and how that influenced my worldview. So yeah, it's very interesting that you say that. And finally, I know we have limited time left, so just to wrap things up, how would you describe your experience at Stanford? The highs and lows, and maybe the biggest takeaway.
Sure. So I feel I had not studied outside of India ever, and I had confined myself to India while I travel abroad for leisure, but I'd never studied abroad. So to me, Stanford was everything that I imagined and way more than that. Like it was literally a paradise. The campus is insanely beautiful. Like you cycle through the campus, and there's just so much energy. I mean, I think once you're at the campus, you start believing that you can just do anything and everything. Like you have Phil Knight, who's the founder of Nike, sitting and having coffee in front of you in the same cafeteria that you are, or you have Jennifer Lopez, who's come for a class. So that experience of everything is really possible. I think for me, I was like, oh my God, it's like you imagine something and it comes real in front of you. So I think for me, just that experience of feeling that, me as an ordinary person who thought I'm just very, very ordinary, getting into this insanely prestigious business school had transformed who I thought I was and what I could do in a single lifetime. Because you hear these stories from these people who rated themselves as average individuals, who not overachievers in any way, but each of them they just consistently built on their like I can feel goosebumps on myself right now as I'm talking to you, Krish, because that's how much adrenaline you feel when you're on that campus. It's like they do some kind of magic there that everything is possible, and it truly is. And the entire campus comes together to make that happen for you, your professors, the management, your classmates who are incredibly smart. So I think that was just one moment when I'm like, oh my god, a place like this can exist.
Yeah.
um, and the second thing was that, it was also a little bit of a cultural shock because I don't know if you've had education in India, but what's interesting in India is that you have a massive divide between the front benches and the back benches, okay? So you'll have these front benches always very geeky, very studious, don't go out to parties a lot. And
Yeah.
the back benches are the exact opposite, that they're great with everything but not education or like studies, right? And in Stanford, that just fell through because there are people who are partying till 3 a.m. and are acing the class in the next morning. And I'm like, how is this person like that smart? Like he was just hammered one day ago, and how is he like back in an 8 a.m. class and is so sharp? So that that was something that I just think it had never occurred to me that you can be both, right? You
Yeah.
can be excellent within your academics and you can still be excellent at partying, you can still be excellent in your beer pong leagues, and so much more. So that true sense of work-life balance, that it's not about just working forever, it's also about like just finding time for yourself, etc. Those are things that I learned from my classmates. That was the second thing. Third thing, I'd done some incredible internships. I'd worked in the family office of the Twitch co-founder, and that again was a great experience. One, like thinking that, oh, I get this opportunity to actually work with this incredible person, and then actually experiencing his work style, so I think, yeah, but if you ask me, the biggest change that had occurred in me, it's just the lens with which I see myself
Yeah.
and to see that what I can achieve in this one lifetime.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes me a bit nostalgic. Makes me feel a bit nostalgic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. I feel Stanford hangover right now.
Yeah, I think I
But
can speak about it all day long, every day. I remember there's this specific tradition in Stanford, which it's called the Vegas foam, okay? And the entire class of 2019, the class of 2018 is like our seniors. We take a flight to Vegas and party there overnight, and then have to come back in the morning and attend classes. And it's almost frowned upon if you don't attend the classes next day because then you're breaking the ritual in some way. And all of those classmates, we dress up in a costume of 90s. So imagine 200-300 people on a single flight in the 90s costume, and the people who are not in costume, like the non-Stanford people, they're I think wondering that is there something wrong with us, that why are we not dressed like them. So it's those moments that you relish and you think back upon them. Or the GSB show, I remember, like our class had put together a great show, end to end. So it's just amazing how these experiences, they bring you together. And of course all the classes, where these great professors, all of them, they're just insanely good.
awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time, Mahak. And if there's a part two, I guess everybody watching my channel will know. Um, but this was great. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course, I'm happy we could do this, and thanks for reaching out, Krish. And I'm excited to share my insights and see the podcast come out live.
Of course. Awesome.